It's Monday, October 11th, 2021. There's no turning back, folks. The winter storm is on schedule, and there really haven't been any major changes from what we've been talking about over the last several days in terms of its track, where we think it's going, and who will be impacted. This will be a lot of high impacts. Travel impacts, livestock impacts, folks who are up in the high country. This is going to be a really big weather system, the biggest of the season so far. We are concerned about livestock, hunter concerns, travel concerns. Hunters, you do not want to be caught unprepared for this storm in the mountains, especially the mountains of Wyoming, northern and northwest Colorado, and southern Montana. And let's throw in the Black Hills as well. Central and northern Wyoming, southern and southeast Montana, western South Dakota, you're in the bullseye. That is where the impacts will be the highest. Now, outside of that area, there'll be plenty of impacts as well, but the worst of the storm will be in those areas. What's good about this storm, it's one of these double-edged swords. The heaviest precipitation is going to fall in some of the hardest hit drought areas of northeastern Wyoming and parts of Montana and North Dakota and South Dakota. So this is going to bring some really good moisture, but it's going to be in the form of winter moisture in many areas. The Colorado Front Range is going to essentially miss this storm. Fort Collins, Denver, down to Colorado Springs. You're going to get the wind. You'll have plenty of wind with this storm, and it will be colder, but only a few showers as downslope will be hitting the Front Range the way the storm is tracking. Improving weather by the weekend. Getting pictures in still, folks, getting out and enjoying the last days of those fall colors. Great shot over Powder River Pass this past Saturday. That's before the snow came into the Bighorns during the day Saturday. Great shot. Capitol Building in Cheyenne. The fall colors in the lower elevations really peaking right now. And a great shot from Kurt Gowdy State Park this past weekend as well. Hopefully you were able to get out and enjoy those colors. Satellite photos telling a lot of interesting things going on. Now, some of this to you may look like just not a lot going on, but what I want to show you is how we talked last week about how the strong jet stream winds that were forming up here north of the Aleutians, and that low up there was going to transfer its energy from all the way from north of the Aleutians into the Four Corners area with this storm. Basically a big transfer of energy from a high latitude to a lower latitude. When you go from a high latitude to a low latitude and you move the air and you change latitude and you move it very quick, this causes a natural spin in the atmosphere. It's called the conservation of potential vorticity. And what will happen is you get spin, and those jet stream winds are showing up right here with these high cirrus clouds. These are the very strong jet stream winds that we were showing you last week that were forming. This is causing that transfer of energy, the spin now, to start happening down here. So we're getting clouds and rain and mountain snow breaking out already in advance of these strong jet stream winds, which will eventually put the upper level low down here by tomorrow morning. This is where the upper level charts are today. You can see that's where we're getting those clouds forming right now as that low is spinning up. And here are the strong jet stream winds coming down on the back side of the system. Then tomorrow morning, there it is, just west of the Four Corners, we have a very well-evolved low coming in, drawing up warm, moist air out ahead of it, drawing in much colder air in behind it. And the end result is the deepest part of the storm. The timing of the storm being its strongest is Wednesday morning with the upper level low just east of Alliance, Nebraska. And the more circles you see, the stronger the storm, because what these black circle lines mean basically is pressure. And so you see that green dot, another line here, another circle there, another circle there. This is an intense, deep storm system. So what will happen is you get upslope on the north side of the system, downslope on the south side of the system. So if you're tracking near or south of the low, you're going to get downslope and heavy winds. On the north side of the low, you're going to get deep, moist upslope and heavy precipitation. And here it is focused in a little bit. That's the same map here, just bringing it in closer. So you can see a lot of closed lines there, deep low pressure. The system is going to be causing a lot of wind. We'll show you that here in a minute. This is the precipitation output through the next 96 hours. So you can see the swath of yellow and orange go across North Dakota, southern Montana, then central and northern Wyoming, going back down into the southern mountains of Wyoming, then right like this into this area here. This is likely going to be some thunderstorms forming out ahead of this system. But it's going to be this axis of moisture right here where the biggest snow threat is going to be. Now, it's going to start as rain, so it's not going to be all snow, but it will start as rain. Notice the upslope winds going against the Bighorn Mountains there in the Pryor Mountains of southern Montana. Look at this red area near the Black Hills. As that water gets pushed upslope and uphill, that's where you're going to get the bigger snows, and that cold air is coming in from the northwest. Now notice there's a bit of a hole here. That's because the winds are going to come downslope off the Wind River Mountains. So southwestern Wyoming is going to be in a little bit of a drier hole. There'll still be moisture, but there'll be a dry hole. Speaking of a dry hole, it'll be the Front Range of Colorado. This is because the track of the storm is north, and the westerly winds, while bringing moisture to the Wasatch and Colorado's western mountains, downhill winds, downslope winds will be windy conditions, the dry conditions for the eastern Colorado plains. Now, I want to show you where the latest drought monitor is, and I want you to see this area of very intense drought conditions is the exact same area that is going to be getting this precipitation. So you can see that right here, in some of the areas hardest hit by the drought, especially north central and northeastern Wyoming, it's a double-edged sword because you're going to be getting some really good precipitation. But if we were to convert to what it looks like for snow, it's pretty darn impressive. Look at that, 17.5 inches in Gillette. We have this bullseye here along the east slopes of the Bighorns. And I do think the eastern side of the Bighorn Mountains and just to the adjacent plains, this area is likely going to see the heaviest amounts of snow. The higher Black Hills as well. And Casper Mountain, Douglas, the northern side of the Laramie Range, the eastern slopes of the Wind River Mountains. This would include Lander, the Owl Creek Mountains, around the Cody area, the Beartooth Plateau, all getting into here. That's where the bigger snows are going to be. But you can also see there's some pretty good snows in the Wasatch, southern mountains of Wyoming, and into the mountains of Colorado as well. But it's up here that's going to take it on the chin. Here's the wind. The wind speeds will be very impressive with this storm, especially tomorrow night. The worst of the wind, I think, is going to be overnight Tuesday into the midday hours on Wednesday. The I-80 corridor of the Nebraska Panhandle and southern Wyoming will have wind gusts in excess of 60 to 70 miles an hour. Look at the winds in southwest South Dakota, eastern Wyoming, and all of Nebraska's Panhandle. Those areas will be hit with some very heavy winds. Very heavy winds also in the Rocky Mountain National Park, Estes Park area, and very strong winds as well in New Mexico, in southern Colorado, and Arizona. So as we go into the end of the week, this is by Thursday. Here's a storm. It's lifting north towards Hudson Bay, moves out fairly quickly. See this little indentation? There's a little bit of a wave coming in behind it. So Wednesday night and Thursday, we may see another episode of snow in the mountains and some snow showers on the plain. So this system is actually going to impact us probably all the way through Thursday, but by the weekend, we have a broad ridge of high pressure reforming, and we have better weather returning to the Intermountain West. So the weather will improve by the weekend. This does not mean with this storm that we're into winter for good. Actually, it's going to warm up behind the storm system, but you put snow on the ground, and that's going to keep it cooler. Going out further, this is for Saturday, the 23rd of October. We have a pretty good Pacific wave coming in, but we also have a fair amount of high pressure in the nation's midsection. What is interesting that's showing up on the long-range charts is along the west coast of Canada and the west coast of the United States, it could be a pretty active pattern at the end of the month. And if you were to look at this, I haven't seen this much rain forecasted in California in a while. Will this come to fruition? We're going to put a question mark on it, okay? We're not exactly 100% sure yet, but I do think this is an encouraging sign that central and northern California in particular, before the month of October is over, could get some real beneficial rains. Certainly, I think Washington and the western areas of those two states is going to bode well in terms of getting some more October precipitation. So that's really good to see. And you can see throughout all of the Intermountain West, these are impressive October moisture amounts over the next 10 to 15 days. Snowfall-wise, over the next 15 days, this adds all of it up. You can see how much snow is going to be falling in the Rockies and possibly the Sierra Nevada of California as well. No one likes winter weather, but this moisture could really benefit a lot of the western United States over the next couple of weeks. The snow is building up over on the other side of the globe. This is over the next 30 days over in Asia and Siberia. We have talked in earlier podcasts about this as being the source region for cold later in the fall and the winter. And it's been a cold October so far in this part of the world, parts of northern China as well. So this is setting the stage for the cold air to build up later this month and into November and December. Have yourself a great Monday. We'll have more details on the storm as we get closer tomorrow morning. But be ready, folks. It's on the way.